Did you know it's week 8? On mad times, that means that we're at the end, which is so sad for my little brain. But we're moving on to vlogs new and off into other things. So if you've not met her yet, this is Ren. Please go and head back to week 1. I mean, come on, guys, don't ignore me here. Head back to week 1 if you're joining us straight at this point to realise the reasons why you don't want this breed of dog. Even though she's the cutest thing on the planet, even though she's a freaking legend, not a normal dog. Don't do it to yourself, your family, your household, etc., etc., etc. So that's the normal disclaimer. Probably not the last time I'll ever say it, but the last time we'll say it in this series, I guess. So this is Ren. She's a German Shepherd mix and is absolutely adorable. We have cuddles often, and what I wanted to work on in this sort of kind of graduation week was just normal stuff. So there's no real difference. But we've actually got some interesting new additions here and some photo shoots that I want to show you. So the first thing that I wanted to do is just sort of start reintroducing that lead, because we've been doing leash pressure bits and pieces, but just to help her out with the loosey walking, we switched her onto a harness so she wasn't putting too much pressure on her neck. She's fine on the harness. We can transition back to the leash now. And that's what essentially we're working through here. So just first walk out, heading out of the gate, absolutely no problems whatsoever, as you can see. And to be honest, that's what it was like the entire time. So a few little sniffies. No, we're going this way, we're walking onwards, and off we go with that nice loose lead. So no issues with that. It'll take me a little while just to sort of integrate it back into normal daily life for Ren before we head out into really busy places, but no issues whatsoever there. As you know by now, dogs do have some free time, free play. The reason why these two aren't together often is exactly as you can see here. Ren wouldn't say no to this, and Alfie would just death roll puppies. So very, very controlled mixing, literally minimal. I'm shouting careful, careful, steady, and giving Alpha recall now and again, just to make sure that we're kind of staying back on track. He does really love her, but he will just flatten her, and she thinks that's great fun, but for puppy joints it's not great fun. So minimum amount of time, they can have playtimes, all good in the hood. So I just wanted to show you that because you haven't seen a lot of the mixing. I felt like it was important. This is a mix. And then we head back in to do some training, and I've got some comparisons I want to show you. So if we revert back in time to Ren week 1, you can see some size differences there whilst Ren learns to catch, and that was her first treat catch, which obviously I was super stoked about and really proud of her for. So she did her first treat catch, and these guys have been reinforcing this game. So this is more of the game. So essentially Ren has an object in her mouth and she jumps into the air at the last stride and we catch her. How this is going to work, I feel like we're playing a big game at the moment of around and find out, specifically with this behaviour, because I think this is going to potentially end up being fairly problematic. But good news is, if you say enough, one of her finished words, then she just stops straight away. So there's no need to kind of worry about it becoming aggressive. It's just I can't catch that when it's a meat missile running at me at 40 kilometers an hour. So flat no. But anyway, we have fun. So then I've got some little clips here of just Ren in free time. You can see it's basically Shrove Tuesday, Pancake Day going on in the back there. And a little Ren Bear is having an absolute party with one of her non-meat chew toys. So she just basically throws it around for herself, which is absolutely fine. We don't mind that. So Spicy Carrot doing Spicy Carrot stuff. Normal life behaviours for Puppy. So she has little bits of like loose time in the pen and then loads of time outside. Jobs are good, and she is a happy bear. Really, really, really good. She does have an off switch, contrary to what this video shows. Some more comparisons that I wanted to show you here. That was the first leg touch on the right side. And then I'm going into week 3, I think it was. Over there, you can see the size difference and just the speed. It might be worthwhile rewinding and watching those two back because they were really good behaviours. And we're just chaining here, so no reward between and then switching out into the side. So we'll be able to do a load of behaviours, one after the other with no rewards. So Dan wanted her to stop in position whilst you continue walking, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, that'll be fine. She's got all the groundwork." And so this was the test. We walk and we put the brakes on. Yeah, I did do a little mini pause. Don't worry, it's all right. We build up, but really proud of her for that. So good work. Then we continued on with the development of the hold behaviour. By this point, this session, I would be expecting to have a fairly good duration of a hold. So we're just reinforcing the baby steps, and then I'm going to push for a much longer hold. So I'm looking for a good firm bite, ideally, without much movement from the dog. A little bit of movement's not so much of an issue for me at this stage. Criteria is more the bite, so the hold down on the object. That was a good hold down over the object, but she dropped it down towards the end, and that was a much better one. So look at the difference between those two, why one is rewarded, one is not, and then we'll see that escalate here. So good little bit of a nibble on it. Not that concerning at this stage. This is a rubber toy, it's a rubber teething toy. Really, really, really nice to have the bite in the mouth. Really good hold there. You can see the solid understanding. So we'll just see if she can do that for a little millisecond longer. Perfect. Hold is fine. And so the verbal goes on to it. Then what I wanted to do is, again, chain some behaviours together, stack them up. So we've got up on the object, which is fine, along with a weight. So that's fine. So we're just pairing behaviours together, just like we did at the end of last week's. So we're pairing those behaviours together to go up onto the object and hold. And then what we'll also do is I will up the ante and start to chain some really difficult behaviours together, especially for a puppy. So here I'm asking her to go up onto the object with a front feet, but then do a flat. Now, as part of that, she actually has to crouch. It's very, very difficult. So that shift where she just went backwards is exceptional. So really, 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 really great work from her. So I'm just asking her to again come into the flat. We have a little bit of a what's the question? So don't worry, we'll just keep it nice and simple, calm it down, ask for the behaviour again, see if I can lure forwards over the object at all or not, and then see if we can get that head tap. I'm not looking for duration here, I'm literally just looking for that contact downwards, and then I just released her there. So she stays on the object even if she's not being told to stay there, and then just seeing if I can do it from being higher up so I don't have to be on the floor. Some more comparisons now. Top is week 1, and then we've got some later ones finishing into a heel work, and then what we'll do is we'll look at some side steps from a couple of weeks back and how much help they needed and how little help they need now. I love looking at the transformation of the puppy as they grow. I think it's really special. So heading out again to do some work. This time we're actually not aiming on loose leash walking. We're going to go and work in the road. So should people do this? Absolutely not. I live in literally the quietest village ever. This is not a through road. So the only people that come on this road are people who live there. And so it's always super, super, super quiet. You can see the cars for miles ahead of time. You can hear everything. It's dead quiet. So this is absolutely comfortable for me. A lot of other people actually train their dogs on this street because it's so quiet. So we're just out on this piece of road here. She can see the cyclist going past. She's got her leash on, and also Dan is within the vicinity to be there for us. We're just doing some little bits of heel work whilst Dan talks to our postman, who's lovely, is such a legend. And we're just doing some little bits over there, working on some focus, working on some positions. It's just so that it's kind of a little bit more proved outside of the home, especially if there's people around, although, as we know from her, she's very well proved around people now. Doing some little fancy feetsies, and then we'll head up into the roadway. So we're in the road here. Like I said, this is safe, but God, please don't do this yourself. Use your brains. And what we want to do here is essentially just have her chilling out if she can, but then also switch on to come and do some work when needed. So she's doing some side steps here. She still does the jump. That will fade over time as she gets more confident with what's requested. And then we're doing some weight. So Dan's there just in case it's needed for emergency purposes. I'm there doing my own thing. You can see, I don't know if you saw them, but just some people wandering around at the back, sort of behind Dan, off over in the distance. So she's doing a really good job because there is other things to do. I needed to know that she would do a sit down, stand, stay on wet concrete. She thought a rock was a snack, so she did dive for that then, but look at her little heel work coming back. She's just so cute. I am so proud of her. I think we've done quite well, actually. The main change for me with this puppy versus my other puppies is just the frustration limit is really low. So that's been the only difference for me. And so just to make sure she's super safe whilst we go mixing and mingling, I've been doing some sewing, haberdashery, I think it's called. I don't know what it's called. I don't do things like this, but I've just done some simple stitching of some Velcro strips like this onto her normal harness, and then the little kind of warning signs to don't touch in training, etc. Just go ahead and get stuck on the side. I don't like Julia's canine harnesses. I want a Y front harness, and so I just went and did this myself as a little project. I did have to use a thimble. I did snap a needle. It wasn't a straightforward process, but actually, do you know what? I feel like I'm actually not that bad at it now. So it was a good skill to develop whilst watching TV. And so then we headed out in this. This was the weather of our photo shoot for this week. And at this point, I was like, Dan, do you think we have a problem? Because I do. Anyway, we headed to York pre-sunrise. This was the weather before. This was the weather when we got there. So we trusted the weather forecast, and actually for once it did turn out okay. And so I wanted to walk you through what's happening here. So she's got her little show leash on just so that she's not off leash completely, although to be honest with you, she would have been absolutely fine, but safety first. And so Dan's just asking her to do a down. Remember how tricky she found downs on wet floor? Here she's doing down on wet cold concrete first thing in the morning in the middle of a city centre. We're doing well. We're happy. So got some really cute pictures of her with a little sneaky eyes, and then moved on to a different location. I really liked this doorway with the light coming through behind. And so I wanted to shoot this door in a couple of different ways just to see what options we had. So this one, I needed her to be really symmetrical, and she did a really good job there. And then the second set that we did, we actually moved in much closer. So this time I'm coming in right from the side there. A really tricky stonework size, to be honest, but she did a really good sit and wait there off of the leash, and adorable picture. I've not fully edited these, but I think they're adorable, so they can stay. So Dan just releasing her there off of that weight. She did a good job. So we headed to the shambles, which was just about light enough. And for this one, it's a tricky street to shoot, to be honest with you. I wanted to keep the lens on, which is a 135 at this point, and just do a stand. A stand stay for Ren in this position is a little bit tricky because she's having to do a curve to stay facing away from the handler, but still look at them, and she did great. So she had a release and went for snacks. And I took loads of empties and made a gigantic pano, which this is actually a pano. And then headed over to this building, which is one of the ones I'd spotted on Google Maps. I loved it. I love the fact that the glass goes nearly to the floor, and I love the tones in it. Really, really dreary part of the day, this one. But I adore the end images. I really do. I absolutely love you know. And then I had a play with Rember. I did some heel work. Forgive the videography skills. That's actually Dan, because his feet are way bigger than mine and my feet aren't that big. So this is my shocking videography. And then this set of videography is Dan's, which is much stiller. And that's frustrating for me, because why am I so wobbly? But anyway, we can see little Rember doing some good steps there into that middle. Really, really, really good middle position, and she's working off leash with me here in the city. So there is a roadway fairly close by. I had absolutely no reservations about working with her here. It was quiet enough, but she ignored all the people that were walking past, and she focused on the task at hand, keeping everything just in check from start to finish. Coming back home, I had a client who was collecting artwork that we've been looking after for a long time. So it's been like 2 years since the photo shoot. And so she was coming to collect the artwork. I just wanted to work on some little bits for Ren's lunch just before she came. So we've been to York in the morning. This is kind of like lunchtime. And then we'll move into the evening session later on. So we're both warm, dry, rested, etc. And she's doing just some nice little behaviours. So what we start to do when we're developing past the point where we're learning loads of new things is we just want to go kind of brush up and interchange. So can I give lots of different commands, one after the other, and have her work on that and also maintain criteria? So that was really good. But that little maneuver there actually was fantastic. And we just did start learning this new thing. So that was a switch, which we'll cover off in a little bit more detail in a second. I don't think I'll do it here because I don't have enough hands in the right places if I'm holding the tub. But we will go through a switch. So just working on how sticky actually are we, and how much glue to the leg do we have. So if I just keep moving around, will she keep leaning? And that's a really good sign that you've got good understanding there, that actually the attachment to the leg is important. So that was a bit delayed on that one, whereas that's much, much sharper. And that's what we'd like to see. So for a switch, what I'll walk through, I just go through the reasoning. It's really highly engaging for the dog to be able to do that switch behavior. So what we're looking for is like the heel position, and then they turn their head away from you, go round the back and get a reward at the other side. And the reward at the other side is usually a toy. So it's a really high driving behavior, good finish, and keeps the handler engagement again really, really, really strong. So we'll just let her get into that position. I made that really difficult for her so she could practice it really well, and then working again on some patterning. So just seeing kind of what we do. But I do have another comparison for you, and it's just just watch my hand. That was so clever. That was so clever. I just think that was so clever. I'm just brimming with pride at this stage. And I don't really care what anyone else thinks, because I'm just in my own little puppy bubble, you know? I did want to straighten up that down though, because I wasn't happy with that. So just straighten that up for us, and then running through some middles. The middles are still developing really nicely, coming in for a pattern switch without the rewards between, and then coming round for a close finish, and then we might switch out of it. We'll see. No, we do heel work. Of course we do. I can't help it. It's just one of those things. I waited for her then, and I shouldn't have waited. But again, puppy brain, puppy brain. What can I say? What can I say? So then these two are still just having their moments, like all of the time. She did stop jumping for Dan, and it was because he wasn't carrying her correctly. So on an evening now, we're chilling out with some chill time off switch whilst we're watching the TV. We try and chill out if we possibly can. We're not TV people, you see, but we do try and chill out just so that she learns to chill out. But I'm often on my laptop doing something of some form of use. And so we move on into the following day, looking at some, again, sharpening up some behaviours, and then doing that switch. So that's a switch, nice and steady, and she picked that up really well, and then she goes back into the foos position, and then we can switch out of it or go into an under or into a close, all from that one position. So it just gives us another alternative to get her to go around the other side with a switch, and then that hand that's giving the snack on the outside, that will get exchanged for like a ball on a rope. If you're with me, I'll show you. Just so that we're all together, I'll show you. So she goes round and then gets the toy. Now, I didn't realise how close I was to the slippy floor in there, so I did move over and do another one on the more solid floor, but that gives you an idea. So really heavily rewarding, and then off she goes. So Velociraptor is happy. Then we headed out to do our second photo shoot. So second photo shoot of week 8 of Ren Diaries, and this time she's off to work with Alfie. So we are actually off out to work. This is us doing our normal day job, basically. It's a fun day job, very muddy, cold, wet, all of those things. So little Alfie's over there. I've got him on a super tight lead so that he doesn't lead her astray. And then these guys are walking up with me together. Ren's walking nicely on leash, and then we're at the log, one of the logs. Like, we're at the same log as the other week, only we're here to make a piece of educational resource. The dogs all are absolutely fine to wait out at a tie station. So Alfie, for example, here is attached to a tree. Ren was also attached to a tree. And to train them to settle in those positions, they often have chew toys, meat toys. So Ren had a rabbit ear here, provided by us, and she also had a hoof. So she was off nibbling that, and a few other bits and pieces were things like this to make sure she's super happy. And obviously I dropped snacks as per. We had a bit of a play in the forest just so that she was used to all of those different materials, the different widths of objects as well. So she was climbing on top of lots of different things, working on her balance, working on her foot positioning, her wake man confidence. And so all of these things are things that we would do anyway with a young dog when they're out doing their day job, basically. So there she is with a hoof, and that piece of educational resource, which is actually going to be a really good one, will be in the membership very, very, very soon. So keep your eyeballs peeled for that one. Then we headed out into a new behaviour, basically. This is a new behaviour. I wanted to train Ren to go backwards. My normal methods would not work at this stage because of some of the other behaviours I've trained her that I wouldn't normally train a normal puppy. And so what we've actually had to do is think outside the box. So I thought I'll use the mat method to see if we can get her into taking steps backwards. And so I've got basically the full progression of this, including frustration. So if you do have dogs in the room, consider wearing headphones now, or just popping the dogs outside of the room, because there will be some barking coming up, okay? Because we're just going to work through some frustration, because I think it's good to include. So I'm looking for backward steps, even if it's just a backward shift in weight, and that's being rewarded. So I did want it on the mat. But then she gave me these backward steps away from the mat. And so at that point, I'm on free shaping. We are free shaping territory, nothing to do with the mat now. As we know, Ren's frustration and shaping is quite difficult with them because they just shout if they're not getting something that they were expecting to get. So when you make the difficulty a bit harder, frustration is the result. So I'll just give her a cue that no, barking's not what we were after. So it's just an oops or an ah, depending on the presentation for me, but no other response. And then she's gone to the mat and then took a step backwards. So at that stage, I was like, that mat is going to get a little bit confusing for her because she's being rewarded for backing up, not to the blanket, the mat. And so she's really understanding this behavior now. There is some level of understanding that actually steps backwards gets snacks. And so angry barks happen. And she's like, what is going on? And then she's like, oh, the blanket. Maybe that is the answer to the question. And then she'll do as a solid and do some steps backwards and then get the reward. And now she's like, oh, you can just see her brain trying to work it out, like, what is this? And at that point, when she started to dig, I was like, right, we'll take out the mat, no problems, because we have some understanding, we just need to develop it. So here, watch her brain work this out. She's sort of sussing it out and trying to work out, what is this thing that this crazy lady wants me to do? Oh, okay, couple of steps. Whoop, half a step gets the response. You can see with her ear, she doesn't know exactly what is happening, but backwards is working. So I know there's some understanding there, so I can either reward quickly or hold. So you'll see me just start to just hold, so we get, instead of one step in each side, we get multiple. And then extending. And then extending. She knows what she's doing now. Look how confident the steps backward are. Perfect. And then can we see if we can get any further? Good. And then, because I've started saying yes, I've upped the excitement. So we might have a squawk. And so if we have that, I'll just do a really simple one so there's no bark on the end of it, so that's not pattern. And that's how you train a backwards step. Anywho, different training session, and I'll probably want to continue on a continuation of the back behaviour because we don't have a verbal on it, we don't have, full understanding on it, so we just want to be making sure that we've got that. And you can see the difference that a nap makes. So when they sleep, it's consolidation time, and so when they come back after a nap, usually they're much stronger in the behaviour, and that was perfect. So I could start adding a verbal on that, and I would, and I do. But we're switching over to the hold behavior. So switching between behaviors, don't do them all in the same session is what I would recommend. And make sure that you're switching between them. So I just wanted to prove with a heavy object that's not that nice to hold, do we actually have a hold behavior or not? So I just wanted to work through this. I'm not happy about the paw coming up onto the object as well, so we need to make sure that we're not heavily reinforcing that with the paw. And so that's something that we just want to make sure doesn't become a thing. And it doesn't, so that's good. So we'll just check that again just to make sure, and then we can go switch on to a different behaviour. So reintroducing behaviours we know, developing them further, and introducing new behaviours, normal bits and pieces that we should have come to expect now when watching Renegade Diaries. Beautiful. I didn't want the paw in it, but we can have it. It's cool, no problems. And then we do a back. So this stage is when I realised actually we need to change our verbals because back and flat are far too similar and it's confusing a little pea brain. So instead we do go back and flat stays as flat, like I said last time. And then I've introduced a new behaviour as well that also has a different name. So lots of differences. And then switch, she's still learning her switch behaviour just to make sure that that's sort of coming together. I will still need to do that hand cue for a little while, but there's no problems with it. And she's coming back into the foo so well. Trying her back from standing, that was beautiful. Because when we're standing, it's much easier for the dog to go into a sit. So what I'm wanting to be able to do realistically the next day, which we'll watch, is for me to send her back and ask for a behaviour. So she just reversed and I said down. She gave me a down on that reverse right at the end. So heavy reward and resimplify. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. That's why this behaviour is really useful for photography. So although as we're going through, you're going to be like, oh, this isn't relevant for photography. Yeah, it is. Any obedience work is relevant for photography because you can chain things, you can stack things, you can put them all together in a gigantic mixing pot and come out with something fantabulous. Even the heel work is useful for making sure that the dog goes into position nice and straight, nice and neat and organized, moves and micro movements, hand movements, everything. And so we're at the end. Ren's graduated. I'm so happy with her. 10 out of 10 from me. And she gets to lick the pot. Hopefully you'll enjoy following her journey in the future. See you soon.